Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to be doing another unboxing. This unboxing is going to be pretty interesting because this is a Gemini Jets unboxing, and we know that they're always fun because there's always a surprise in the box. What I'm not so subtly hinting at is that Gemini Jets models usually come broken, and today's unboxing is going to be no different because I had a look at these models just before I started recording, and 2 out of the 3 models that we're going to be unboxing today have arrived broken. Now at this point, a lot of you are probably wondering why I still collect Gemini Jets models, considering I've complained so much about them in the past. And the trouble is, a lot of the molds that Gemini produce, other companies don't produce yet. For example, NG, I collect NG models wherever I can, so A330s, A350s, A320 family, 737 family now as well, including the Max that they have. I will collect from NG. It'll be very rare that I will collect now a 737 from Gemini Jets, but there are still a lot of aircraft that Gemini Jets produce that other manufacturers such as NG don't produce, the bulk of those being regional aircraft. All of the aircraft in today's unboxing are regional aircraft. We have an A220, an ATR-72 and a Q400. So yeah, all of those models at the moment aren't produced by NG. But you can take my word for it that as soon as any other manufacturer releases an A220, an ATR-72 or a Q400, I will collect from those instead. So with that being said, we're going to start off with the first model of today's unboxing. We have the Gemini Jets Aer Lingus or Emerald Airways ATR-72. While I do have primarily a US-based collection, I do like to collect some European regional aircraft and short-haul aircraft because in the long run, I would love this to be the case. I'm not sure if it ever will be, but I would love to do a model airport of Southampton Airport, which is my home airport. And so whenever we get some UK regional aircraft or aircraft that fly into Southampton, I will collect those even though primarily my collection is US-based. And this is one of the aircraft that flies into Southampton. These fly from both Dublin in Ireland and Belfast in Northern Ireland down to Southampton, and these ATR-72s aren't directly operated by Aer Lingus, these are operated by Emerald Airlines. These ATR-72s, as well as previously ATR-42s as well, have been operating under Stobart Air for years, ever since 2014. However, unfortunately Stobart Air went bankrupt in 2021, and so in 2022 Emerald Airlines was formed to operate these ATR aircraft on behalf of Aer Lingus. Currently, Emerald Airlines have 14 of these ATR-72s in their fleet, and they have another 2 on order. However, a few of those aircraft are going to be moved over to Emerald Airlines UK, which is another kind of subsidiary of Emerald Airlines, a bit like how Aer Lingus have Aer Lingus and then Aer Lingus UK. They're just the exact same aircraft, except they will operate under a Gulf registration instead of the Echo India Irish registration. The 2 bases for Emerald Airlines at the moment are Dublin in Ireland and then Belfast, which is, you know, part of Northern Ireland, so a part of the UK. So from my understanding, Emerald Airlines will operate from Dublin, and then Emerald Airlines UK will operate from Belfast, and they have a plethora of different destinations around the British Isles. So they fly to Donegal in Ireland, the Isle of Man, Jersey, Birmingham, Bristol, Exeter, Leeds, Manchester, Nottingham, Newcastle, Newquay, Southampton, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Glasgow and Cardiff. And these aircraft have actually become very prominent around the UK over the last few years with the closure of Flybe. A lot of these sort of routes have opened up for Aer Lingus Regional to operate, and they've done really well by the sounds of things. I've yet to fly Emerald Airlines, but I would love to, seeing as they operate out of my local airport. I would love to take one of these ATR-72s up to either Dublin or Belfast at some point, but I have yet to do that. And so with that being said, we're just going to go ahead now and open up this model. And here we go. Just to put it in comparison next to this A330, we have the tiny ATR-72. Now, while this model isn't physically damaged, I am including it in the damaged category because of this nose. Now, there was a lot of drama about this weird looking nose on the ATR-72. Gemini Jets have actually done a really good job with the ATR-72 mold. I have the FedEx ATR-72, and that one is a beautiful model. However, this one The mold is okay, but the prints are not. If you're not familiar with the ATR-72, this is not how the nose of the ATR-72 is supposed to look. The cockpit windows are way too far down on this model. When the images for this model were first released online, there was a huge amount of backlash about this model and how this is just not how an ATR-72 is supposed to look. A lot of people were suggesting at that point, by the time they had released the photos but hadn't sent these models actually out to the collectors yet, that they could recall them back to their kind of manufacturer place in China and have a re-release of this aircraft in a better quality. Of course, that would cost money for Gemini Jets having to recall this model, but at the end of the day, it's their fault, they messed up, and so they should have to pay the price. But instead of listening and responding to all the comments on their Instagram page to their loyal customers, instead they decided to turn off the comments. But it just goes to show that after all these years, Gemini Jets and their tactics still haven't changed. But taking a look at this model now, starting off at the front of the aircraft, we have the nose. Of course, this is the poor part of the ATR-72. It is a shame because, as I say, the FedEx ATR-72 I have, it has a perfect cockpit. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just this particular model. Then we have the nose, of course. We have the forward landing gear there. We have the cargo door at the front. Of course, the ATRs are quite unique in the sense you board at the back, the cargo goes at the front here. Then we have the emergency exit there. We have the Aer Lingus regional titles. We have those engines. We have the overhead wings there. We have the main landing gear, the windows at the back, the registration, which is Echo India Golf Papa Papa. We have, of course, the Emerald Airlines titles at the back there, the Irish flag, and then the door you board from at the back here. And then we have the Aer Lingus, the new Aer Lingus livery on the tail there at the back. So yeah, overall, it's an interesting model. It's not terrible. I am going to keep it in my collection because there's nothing actually physically wrong with the model, but I'm going to keep it, and hopefully Gemini Jets end up re-releasing this Aer Lingus ATR-72. Next up, we have another model for my European short-haul collection. We have the Gemini Jets Flybe Q400 here. Now, this comes at a pretty sad time because recently in January of 2023, Flybe, and that is the new Flybe, have ceased operations once again. The original Flybe started operating 20 or 30 years ago at this point, and for the first 2 decades of the 21st century, they actually operated flawlessly. They were by far the largest domestic and regional airline in the UK until they went bankrupt in 2020. However, shortly after they went bankrupt, one of their investors actually purchased the airline's name and launched a new airline. Technically speaking, the new Flybe isn't the same as the old one. It is technically a new airline just operating with the same name. And so the new Flybe was founded in September of 2020. However, they commenced operations almost 2 years later in April of 2022. They started operating from their base in Birmingham and Belfast, and they didn't even last a year until they finally went bankrupt again in January of 2023. The new Flybe, however, were nothing compared to the old Flybe. The old Flybe had over 50 Q400s in their fleet. They had E-jets, and then at points they had other aircraft. They even had Boeing 737s at some points. They had BAE 146s. They operated Twin Otters and various other aircraft like that as well. But the new Flybe, the peak of their fleet was 8 Q400s, which is nothing compared to the 50 plus the old Flybe had. So while Flybe have been around for the past year, they have not had the same presence that Flybe had before, and that's mainly because in the couple years that Flybe have had an absence from the UK skies, other airlines have filled the shoes of the old Flybe. For example, Logan Air, they've expanded operations a ton. Blue Islands have expanded, Eastern have expanded, Orny have also expanded. So essentially the new Flybe couldn't grow because all these other airlines had kind of filled in Flybe's shoes while they'd been away. But despite Flybe no longer being around, it is very nice to have a reminder of them in my collection in the form of this Flybe Q400 here. This is the new livery as well, the new Flybe's livery. They started operating their Q400s in what I like to call the baby blue livery. Then they switched liveries into my favorite livery, which is the all purple livery. And then of course, when the new Flybe launched, they launched in this color scheme here. And despite Gemini Jets getting all the prints right on this Q400, this time they haven't got the actual physical quality of the aircraft down, because as you can see, we have a damaged model. Now unfortunately, I've lost the little pin piece that goes in. So as you can see, if I can pick that prop up, okay, I can't pick that up. So as you can see, we have the blade piece there that fits onto the engine cover, and this would usually be a pretty easy fix, but I don't have the little pin piece that kind of holds the props in place. I did see it in the box just before I started this video, so I know it's somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment. Okay, so for now I'm just going to go through this aircraft without the prop attached, but hopefully I can get this fixed in the future. But starting off at the front, of course, we have the Q400 nose with the correct proportions on the cockpit there. We have the forward landing gear, the Flybe titles, the forward boarding door, we have the engines, the main landing gear, and then the Flybe titles on the tail with the registration, which reads Golf Echo Charlie Delta Echo, I think that says. It's very tiny, so I apologize if I got that wrong, but that is the Flybe Q400. I would love to either see a re-release or get one of the older releases of the purple Flybe livery. That would be really cool. And I mean, it would be really cool to have all three Flybe Q400 liveries. I think that would be pretty neat, but yeah, we'll have to see if Gemini Jets ever do that. But for now, we're going to move on to the last model of this unboxing. And so finally, for today's unboxing, we have another aircraft which is not for my European short-haul collection. This is actually for my US collection, of course, and this is an aircraft I need for Dulles, and an aircraft I've flown pretty recently. We have the Gemini Jets Air Canada Airbus A220-300. This is my third A220 in the collection. I have the Delta A220-100 and the Breeze A220-300, and now we have this one, the Air Canada A220-300. Air Canada currently have a total of 60 of these A220s on order, and they currently have 33 of those 60 in their fleet, and the rest of those are going to be ordered all the way up until 2026. These aircraft, of course, operate around Canada and from Canada down into the US, one of the destinations being Washington Dulles. Of course, they are kind of flip-flopping between the A220, the CRJ 900s and the E175s. But when I flew this aircraft back in July of 2022, I flew this aircraft from Toronto Pearson down to Washington Dulles, so it seems like this is going to be almost like a summer thing, and then maybe they get the CRJ 900s and E175s during the winter. I'm not really sure how it's working at the moment, but there we go. All I know is this aircraft does occasionally come down to Washington Dulles. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead now and open up this model. And here we go, we have another beautiful Canadian addition to the collection. My only quarrel with this model is I think that the forward landing gear is a little bit too long. I thought that on the Breeze A220 as well. But apart from that, I think this model is beautiful. It is just a shame about that forward landing gear. I do wish they could shorten that a bit. You can even see kind of the nose is higher than the tail. You can see it's kind of got that gradient, but there we go. Starting off at the front of the aircraft, as you can see, all Air Canada aircraft now with the new livery have the mascara around the cockpit windows there, which looks really good. We have the forward landing gear there, which again I think is a little bit too tall. We have the L1 door here. We have the Air Canada titles with the Air Canada logo in red. We have the black engines. We have the winglets there, the Wi-Fi box, the registration, which is Charlie, you know what, I cannot even read that, that's so tiny. Something Juliet Kilo Echo, is that Golf? I can't read that, that's too tiny. But we have the Canadian flag, Airbus A220, I guess it says down there, the rear door, and then the rear tail of the Air Canada A220. I haven't really spoken a lot about this aircraft, but in a Gemini Jets unboxing, that is probably a good thing. That means there isn't really much wrong with this model. So yeah, this is actually a really nice addition to my collection, and I cannot wait to feature this in some Washington Dulles updates. And so yeah, here we have the Air Canada A220 at the gate here, the only model that came in actually alright condition. But yeah, apart from that, that does conclude today's unboxing. We had some pretty interesting models. Again, I'm going to keep all of them in my collection. I think they're all reasonably okay. I'm hoping I can find the piece to fix the Flybe Q400, and I am just gonna have to kind of cope with that Aer Lingus ATR 72. But yeah, apart from that, I hope you did enjoy today's unboxing, and apart from that, I want to thank you very much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.